I'm back. So I'm here today to do my August wrap up part 1. So August is a bit of a weird month because I'm doing the Amazing Readathon, I'm doing Aurelium, I'm doing the Romance Readathon, and I also went to Italy for 10 days. So it was definitely a weird reading month because I can't choose what I want to read. I mean, I can, but the Amazing Readathon, all my books I read if I want to give my team bonus points has to be blue, and then I'm kind of reading based around the prompts that I'm given. And then I'm also doing Aurelium, which I'm actually done with at this point. I've actually finished all my prompts. I have 2 more prompts I have to do, but they're like extensions, and even if I don't finish them this month, I could finish them in the future months, but I'm probably going to do both of them because I want to read them. But again, I'm kind of waiting for prompts to fit. So I finished 7 things, and because I was in Italy, I didn't really listen to any audiobooks other than when I got back and when I was here, because it was just very, very loud and I really couldn't hear anything. So this is some really, really old podcasts. But I was able to finish 7 things, and I'm going to go over like what they were for and all that other stuff. But I want to do stats just because I find stats interesting, to be very honest with you. I think they're interesting. And then I'll do my cumulative stats at the end of the month. But I went up 7 things. I read 2,678 pages. I read 86 pages a day, which makes sense. It's definitely lower than my typical average, but that's just because like there were some days in Italy where I read nothing. My average page count was 382 pages, which is actually a bit higher. I read 2 or 3 400-page books. My most read drama was historical romance, which is, I only read 7 things. I think I read 2 historical romances and 1 historical mystery. 2 books with wrap and 4 authors I've read before. And then my rating breakdown, I had 3 5-star, 2 4.5-star, 1 4-star, and 1 3-star. Publication breakdown, I read 3 new relations, 3 backlists, and 1 from last year. I read 4 physical, 2 audiobooks, and 1 ebook. I started 2 series, I continued in 1, I completed 1, and a series I caught up with was 1, and then I read 3 standalones. And then I read no arcs. I read 1 from Audible, 1 from the library, 5 owned, I think my sister might be beautiful for that. But genres read 1 romance, 1 historical, 2 mystery, 1 fantasy romance, and 1 sci-fi. So those are the stats that we have. And now let's get into the books. First book that I read for the start of August, and like my 3rd book for Aurelium, was The Roughest Draft by Emily Weberly and Austin Sigmund Broca. This is their adult romance debut, and I really liked it. It actually was for the Amazing Readathon because I had to read a book from the 5 publishers. It's actually pretty hard, I'll be very honest, and then I had to find a book that was blue and work with my tarot prompt that had water on the cover, so I chose this. I actually love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I think that a lot of people, when I was watching reviews of it, they said that they really struggled with the miscommunication trope, but I really liked it. I like second chance romances, and I like their writing style. Their favorite books of mine are second chances. So, sorry, they're talking upstairs. So I liked it, but you basically follow these 2 characters, Karina and Nathan, and they were a writing duo. They had a really successful book 1, and then at their end of book 2, they stopped talking and they stopped writing. But they have 1 more book on their contract together, and they kind of are forced to write together, but they don't really want to. So they kind of get together and they kind of do this book, and then as you kind of go on, as at the beach house, they kind of figure out what led them to separating. It was really, really good. If you don't like miscommunication, I think you're going to struggle with this, but it is a summer setting. I like the main characters. It is in both their point of views, which is definitely a strength for me when I read romances, but I liked it. I gave it 5 stars, and I want to read their other romances. I think I have 1 more that I haven't read yet. It might get read this week, we'll see. But I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. So the next book that I read was, sorry, I'm looking at my computer because I have everything. Oh, this was another book for the Amazing Readathon, and it was also, I think it was for Beautiful Cover. I think it was a sightseeing book. And then I also read it for Aurelium because I had to read an audiobook, and that is The Duke Gets Even by Joanna Shoup. Sorry, you're going to see my puppy because she's whining. But I'll attach a photo here. I'm going to count this as the end of a series because I don't know if I'm going to read the first book, The Heiress Hunt. I do have the audiobook, but everyone really chatted up these 3 books, so I'm going to call it. But this follows Nellie, and it is basically the 3rd person in their friend group, and she winds up getting together with the Duke that kind of got messed over in all the other books. He kind of was kind of like, sorry, my dog really needs a bone and she's biting me instead of a bone. But she, Cassie, so he kind of got screwed over, and they kind of get together, and I love the chat about female reproductive health in this book, and I just really liked Nellie as a character. I really liked this book. It had a nice balance of all of the elements, and it was just a great read. You got to see all the characters from the previous books. It does make me intrigued to maybe read The Heiress Hunt because that character was a big character in this book. But yeah, I gave it 5 stars, and I really want to go back and read other books by Joanna Shupe in the future. 5-star read for sure. Well, the next book that I actually read in like 24 hours when I was going to the airport, but it is The Pink Lemonade Cake Murder by Joanne Fuqua. This is the 29th book in this, or the 25th book in this series, so it's pretty long in the series. And I'm just not going to chat much about it because it is the 29th book in the series, and honestly, I'm just invested in this series. I really don't. I mean, it's a fun mystery series. I don't think it's the best cozy mystery series I have ever read. I think the mysteries are super weak. I don't think I agree with a lot of the author's beliefs, to be very honest, and it is a very repetitive writing style, but I'm invested in the characters. The ending of this book was a bit shocking. It set up the next book pretty well, and I like when she does that, but it was a fun read. It didn't rock my world. Here is the photo, but it is definitely not the best cozy mystery series I've ever read, but at this point, I'm like 29 books in. I'm pretty invested. But I only gave it 3 stars, and I'm excited to read the other books in the series. It's just not a series I necessarily recommend for the cozy mystery genre. It's just very, very well known. I'm going to do this a bit out of order. So the next book that I was reading was In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Kuhn. This is a book that I got from a lot of people, but especially Lacey Book Lovers. I'll try to link her if I remember when this video goes live, but she really hyped this book up. But basically, I've read T.J. Kuhn's House in the Cerulean Sea and really liked it. This is just a fun read. It's very, very heartwarming. It has a lot to do with found family, but it's basically about this family of robots living in this somewhat, futuristic society, and they basically have to go there to save their father, and it was really, really cute. I love the characters when I read House on the Cerulean Sea, and it just gave me found family vibes. There was a quest element. It's definitely LGBTQ+, as everything with TJ Kuhn is, and it was just a solid read. It was very, very emotional. This is my Fairy Loot edition, which is why I read it, because my edition is blue. If you get the other one from other sellers, it's just green. But I just love this book. I thought it was so cute. I think all the character dynamics were great. I loved Victor's characters, and there is a lot of elements of a retelling that are in here. Sorry, my dog is playing with her bone, and she wants me to play with her, so if you hear that in the background, I apologize. But I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I want to go back and read Under the Whispering Door, but I like T.J. Kuhn, and I just found this book to be very, very charming and very, very fun. I love books about found family. I will admit I did tear up at the end. This was where my reading slowed down a bit just because I was in Italy, and I didn't have enough time to devote to all of my books, but I really loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. This book worked for a beautiful cover for the Amazing Readathon. It also was my thriller, my science fiction book for Aurelium. So this one was a double duty book that counted for a lot of things, which is actually really, really cool. And then the next book I picked up was Scales and Sensibility by Stephanie Burgess. This was a romance book. I actually read this more recently. I read this actually on the plane ride home. These books are a bit out of order just because when I cut back to do my Goodreads, I think it did not order. But this is a Regency dragon story, and it's a Sense and Sensibility retelling, but you basically follow this main character named Eleanor, and she is a ward of this family, and her cousin has a dragon. Dragons have become a high fashion accessory in this town. Sorry, my dog does not want me to film. And she winds up accidentally kidnapping her cousin's dragon, and she winds up escaping, but then she unexpectedly has to go back to kind of like save the day. Magic and shoes. It's a really, really fun story. I read it in like a day when I was on the plane, and it was just a very, very well crafted story. There was a lot of mysteries in the story that kind of all came together at the very, very end that I just really, really liked. I really want to read the second book in this series. I want to go back and I want to read more by this author because she did what I love about historical romance. Sorry, my dog is very, very loud. But she also added magic, and it had a lot of like interacting plot points in the story, and I think that if you have read Sense and Sensibility, you'll be able to see the parallels. I want to read the second book, Claws and Contrivances. It was a blue book, and it did have a romance element, and I really am happy that I picked it up. This was, I think, for the Rome leg, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, I gave it 5 stars, and I want to go back and read everything by this author. I sometimes love readathons because, or like reading challenges, because it kind of forces you to pick up books that you like are not aware of that you really, really have. And I picked this one up because of Four Paws in a Book and Covers with Cassidy. But yeah, I liked it. I also do like a lot of Regency romances. Sorry, my dog is very, very loud. But I gave it 5 stars, and I really think that if you also like Regency romance, you will pick it up. Clip was super loud, but I overall really, really love this book. I'm really excited to read the sequel, and I gave it 5 stars, and it really worked for a romance book for me. And then the next book I read was this was when we went to Brazil, I think. You had to read a book with more than 4 people on the cover. This was a hard book, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to find something on my Kindle. But I did wind up bringing The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray with me. This is the first book in a series. I love this book. I think the only thing that like kind of both these books struggles from is I don't really have a ton of Jane Austen knowledge. So this was kind of a mashup of like all the characters in a house from Emma and Knightley, and a murder happens. Mr. Wickham is killed, and the 2 children, Julia Tinley, the daughter of Catherine and Henry, and Jonathan Darcy, the son of the Darcys, they wind up teaming up together to try to solve the murder. And I just love this. I think I wish I was like reading it in like a day, because I think I would have like enjoyed it a little bit more. There was also Autism Wrap for Jonathan, which I really did like. I want to get the second book. It's actually on my tentative TBR for September. I'm gonna try to get the audio, but I love this. I gave it 4 stars actually. I love the Autism Wrap. I love seeing the characters, and again, I'm not like the biggest Jane Austen fan, but I do like the characters. I do like seeing them. I do like retellings. I just did a retelling vlog on my channel. I'll try to link it if I remember, but it is on my channel. And I really, really like this. I want to read book 2 in this series, and it was just really, really fun. And then the next book that I read was a pure prompt book. So if you ever watched The Amazing Race, that's what this readathon is sort of based on. So one of our legs, we had to do a fairy tale, like a retelling of something. But because we got last in that leg, we had to have a punishment. So our book it had to be over 400 pages. So my Kindle book was Straight On Till Morning by KJ Sutton. This is a Neverland retelling. I do not know who I heard about this from. I think I heard about it from Ava Reed's Romance, but then I think I was watching Becca with a Books. She went to go visit KJ Sutton because I think that they're friends. So I was looking on KJ Sutton's like Amazon page, and this book was like for $1.99. So I bought it just to put it on my Kindle, and I downloaded it because it was blue, and then I wound up reading it. For a 400-page book on my Kindle, I read this incredibly quickly, but I loved it. I'm probably going to give it like 4.5 stars for review, but I really enjoyed it. So basically you follow this main character, and she is Wendy, and she kind of gets sucked off to Wonderland because her parents are in a bit of dire straits. And she's kind of set to task to kind of murder Peter Pan because her brother is really, really sick. And it's a very, very complicated story, sort of like Scales and Sensibility. There's a lot of like plot twists happening. Very, very steamy. I will say that it is a very steamy romance. There was a lot happening in this story, but I really enjoyed it. Also, kind of like when I talked about In the Life of Puppets, there is a lot of found family dynamics that just super worked for me. But I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 stars for review. So yeah, those are the 7 books that I read. If I had to pick favorites, I don't know, I actually had a lot of 5-star reads, and I think they were all books that I really enjoyed, and I think I just would have read them a lot quicker if I wasn't traveling. And I did not read any audiobooks once I left America. Like, the only book I guess you could say I sort of finished was the Pink Lemonade Cake Murder, because I was listening to that on the plane before we took off. But yeah, those are the 7 books that I read. Let me know in the comments if you're participating in the Amazing Readathon, what team you're on. I'm Team Blue. You'll notice from all my blue books. I'm also doing Aurelium, and at this point I'm done with Aurelium. I have to do 2 more things, but I'm just waiting for a prompt to work for me for one of those books. They're also pretty chunky too. And I'm also doing the romance readathon. So a lot of readathons. I'm also trying to soak up summer. I have 2 full weeks off before I have to go back to work and say goodbye to this girl, because I have to go back to work and she has to stay here. But yeah, that is what I have read. Though that's my reading wrap up, and I will talk to you guys soon for another video. Bye.